Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Our worship team, thank you very much. They sort of set the mood. All right, and this morning, it's, like I said, Mission Sunday and everything, and I know you do not see Pastor here. Okay. All right. Anyway, he had to be gone on some church business, and so he was thinking about somebody that would do the service, and when he thought about the missionary service, he said, okay, you can do the service, and I'm going, no, thank you, no, thank you. And then later on, I said, okay, I'll take it over. Okay, but that doesn't mean I'm preaching. Okay, all right, we have a little different service for you guys this morning. All right, but to segue into what we're going to be doing, I want you to think about, you probably have a favorite tool that you like at your house. Okay, men probably have a fishing pole that they love, and hopefully it's going to catch their fish. Okay, I know Sister Polly has a sewing machine and she loves to sew. All right, and so different ones of us have different things that you really rely on to help you do what you want to do, right? Okay, it says the great creator of all time designed you and me in Ephesians 2 and 10 informs us. We are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Our Lord has no body here on earth, right? Our God is in heaven. So what he has done, we are his hands, we are his feet, and we are his mouths, okay? And so we are chosen to do for him. And that's what we're talking about this morning, is to go and to preach the gospel, go and teach people, witness to people, and have them come into church and everything. We all are different. We all have different functions. Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others faithfully and administering God's grace in its various forms in 1 Peter 4 and 10. And a little story says, in Germany during World War II, a church was totally destroyed except for a statue of Jesus Christ that was almost unharmed. And we see that a lot of times when earthquakes happen, when tornadoes happen, certain things, I mean, the tornado can be all around, and then all of a sudden there's this one house that just does not even touch, you know. Okay, so this statue wasn't harmed. The hands of the statue were missing, though. That's the only thing that was missing was the hands. Rebuilding the church, a famous sculpture offered to replace the hands. The people of the church refused, declaring, Christ has no hands but ours to do his work. If we don't feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, entertain the stranger, visit the imprisoned, and clothe the naked, who will go? Okay? And so this morning, the person that I started thinking, okay, God, who can help us in this service today? And whenever you think of a mission service, you think of people going off somewhere, right? And doing those things. So this morning, I have asked Sister Dawn. A lot of you don't know, because I know the church has been here. This is just going to be our 8th year in March, okay? And some people come through and think, okay, well, this church has just now got here. No, we just didn't arrive. We've been in this city for over 50 years or so. Anyway, but the point is that you don't know everybody. So this morning, we're going to introduce Sister Dawn. Sister Dawn has been, she's a helper. She's sort of like me. You don't hear much about what I'm saying or whatever, because I don't like to be in front of everybody, but yet she works in the back, okay? If you need something done, you can ask her, she'll do it, okay? And so she's been many places, and so this morning she's going to share some of the things that she has done, and and none of us do everything by ourselves, okay? She goes with the crew, okay? So anyway, I'd like to introduce her, get her up here, and I'm sure she's got a crew helping her.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You good? Just about? All right. Well, again, today is Mission Sunday. And as I began to plan for today, I've been traveling. I had to go to Dallas this week. And the drive there, 5 hours, and 5 hours home gives me plenty of time to think. I'm a thinker in the car when it's quiet because I'm a doer, so I don't think as I'm doing sometimes. But as soon as I get in the car, things pop into my head. So, but I began thinking about missions and what that means and what that means to us as a body, as a church body. My parents have been in the church since I was just a little girl. Around 2 years old, they came into the church, and I'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. But I just remember there's so many things, and we have young people growing up, and we have new people coming in that may or may not know some of the really cool things we used to do. I was sharing with Laura as I was preparing about when we'd go to the assembly, all the women on Mission Sunday would wear white, and it was amazing to see them march in their white garments. They would have bake sales and crochet and do different things to have fundraisers and to raise money for missions. And then the Parade of Nations, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit as well. Just so many things that our young people may not know and that some of you may not know. So been blessed to be to have participated, and just want to share some of those things with us today. Are we able to? It's spinning. Well, we'll get started. And Susie or Laura, whoever, you guys can just kind of catch up with us. So I'm going to read today from Matthew 28, 16 through 20. And it says, "Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, and some doubted. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Amen." So I remember as a young child going to Vacation Bible School. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was probably around the age of 10 or so. And this was one of the verses, or actually 19 and 20, was one of the verses that I memorized that week at Vacation Bible School. And I remember, I'm going to try to do this without crying. I'm not a crier. But today I may be. I remember thinking, those words are in red. He's saying them to me, just like he was saying them to the disciples, to go ye and teach all nations. And there was a stirring in my spirit that I wanted to go. And my dream was to go to Australia and to go to Haiti. Those were two places that just came into my heart. And even at that young age. So, of course, we know this is the Great Commission. And it's interesting that Matthew, when he wrote this, he says that they worshiped him, but some doubted. And I thought, they're looking at the risen Savior. They're talking to him. But it came to me that it wasn't really a doubt, it was kind of a hesitation. What now? You're no longer here. You're not with us. We're not walking with you. But then Jesus commissions them. And basically, if you read it in the original text, it says, go and make disciples, is basically what he was saying. So there's an urgency. Jesus challenges his disciples to witness for him throughout Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Wherever the Lord would lead, they were in the business of making disciples. And Jesus knew their future would not be easy. And the Good Shepherd knew they were fallible, and sheep can sometimes be stubborn. Sheep sometimes run astray, but he assured them, you go, and I will be with you. I will not leave you. And that is our Great Commission too. And whatever the Lord leads us to do, he will be with us every step of the way. Are we able to? Sorry, guys. Okay. So I kind of wrote this down, and I will be sharing a little bit of some of the trips that I have made and some of the things we've done locally in the state. But we're going to talk today about local missions, statewide missions, and global missions. So our local missions, our second Sunday offering goes to that. And like our pumpkin patch, the market days that we have, the little jars, which I meant to bring one in, I forgot, the little coin jars that we have. And I remember, again, as a young child, I had a little coin jar. And back in the day, I'm really going to show my age, some of you may know or may not know, but there was a little book you could get at the bank, and you could put dimes or quarters in it and save so much money. And I remember having those and being able to take that to church for March Mission Drive or October Mission Drive and being so proud of myself that I had saved that many dimes and didn't buy bubble gum with them. But just things like that. So we'll talk about that again in a little bit about how we're teaching our children. They reflect us, so how we're teaching them. But another thing is state missions, that we do send an offering to state for the mission work there. That helps with emergency relief partnerships, restoring churches, camping ministries, things like that. And then the global missions, of course, with March and October Mission Drive. So they say for every dollar we send, a soul is saved. Okay, yes, yeah, we're getting there. All right, I think my clicker might work. Let's see if it does in that way, because I'm worried about it. Is it in the... Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. You either love your computer or you don't. There's no medium. It's one extreme or the other. Will it let me now? We'll let you go into from current slide right here. It won't let us go bigger. That's okay. We'll just do it that way. Okay, so local missions. So as I was thinking about this, I broke it down. Go to the next slide, Laura, if it'll let you. It's not letting me. There we go. So I was thinking about our missions, our mission field. Are the missions within our four walls. We have mission fields right here sitting among us. We have our families. We have our children. We have our youth. Anyone in this building is a mission field. And our friends and neighbors. So our families, I was trying to see if you were caught up with me. Thank you. How do we minister to our families? Well, we can have family devotions, personal devotions, things within our household, teaching them, teaching our young children. I love it when I see the little ones come up and put their offering into play. That just blesses my soul. And a study conducted by George Barna found that a person's lifelong behaviors, beliefs, morals, and spiritual foundation are in place by the age of 9. And we're seeing that in our society today. We're seeing children do things they shouldn't be doing, so we know they're not being taught, and we also see children doing what they should be doing, and that's amazing. And I found some statistics that I wanted to share. This is a little over 7% of high school athletes go on to play varsity sports in college, and less than 2% of those high school athletes go on to play in a NCAA division type school. And less than 0.001% go to the pros. And I began to think about that. And I thought, we make sure our children go to practice. We make sure they have the best equipment. They make sure they have all these things. And yet sometimes we're tired on Wednesdays or we're tired on Sundays, and we don't always make sure that they get to church. But 100% of us will stand before the Lord someday. And that was something that I struggled with to share, that it really struck home with me, that the emphasis that we put on things in the world and how we need to be putting some emphasis on our growth with our children and our youth, teaching them about the Lord and to come to church. Children's ministries. So there's a 414 window. So that I am very big on, I'm actually director of spiritual development at my local, where I work at Pillars. And one thing I've really been doing is a lot of research on when children accept Christ. And there's this thing called a 414 window. And there's research that shows that 85% of those who become Christians do so between the ages of 4 and 14. So we have that window of opportunity. It's not that they can't when they're older, but if they make a commitment between that age, that sometime in their life they usually come back to that if they stray away. And then our youth, the fundamental precepts of truth, integrity, meaning, justice, moralities, ethics are irrevocably formed by the ages of 13. And then friends and neighbors, those are within our walls. Only 55% of Christians share their faith with an unbeliever. One time in a year. That's only once in a year. So, Ingram Road Family Worship Center outside our walls, in our community, in our workplace, and in our schools. So our community, we do a lot of events, VBS, Pumpkin Patch, that's our mission field. We open up the mission field and we have them come. There are hurting people, and there's an old song that says, in the shadow of our steeple, souls are crying. And I just begin to think about, we have so many houses and so many things, and actually, let's see, let me go back. No, yeah. Oh, it's the wrong one. Okay. This one. I went too far again. There we go. The red dot is our church. I did a Google map search and just kind of wanted to see the houses around us. So just looking at our community, where we are right now, sitting on Ingram Road. Again, with the events and VBS, and then workplace. So we all go into a workplace or into a store, in somewhere, something that we do weekly. And again, there's another statistic with 55% of people ages 18 to 39 have a misconception of what salvation is. They say there's no personal creator or God. They don't believe that God would take a penalty for their sin. And they think I'm as good as any Christian I know. So they're that misconception of that they don't need that salvation experience. And then of course our schools, we talked about a little bit with how crime is prevalent in our schools, unfortunately. And then behavioral problems where teachers cannot teach. Our children aren't learning what they need to learn. So we are to go and make disciples. We're the hands and feet of Jesus. And then, I love it. Thank you. I love this because it says, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, ordained you, that you would go and bring forth fruit, and that fruit should remain. So it's a constant circle. You've been chosen, ordained to go, to bring, and that fruit will remain. So they've been chosen and ordained to go. And it's just a continuous circle. As we witness and as we bring people in, that they will witness and continue to bring people in. So I was fortunate enough to go to Haiti. I've yet to go to Australia. That's still on my bucket list. But we went down and put a roof on an orphanage down there. I was down there for about 8 or 9 days, and it was an amazing experience. The children there in Haiti are not orphans. Most of them are not orphans. Their parents just can't afford to feed them. While we were there, we had 2 little boys dropped off by their parents, and that was a hard day for all of us. But they're such a loving group of children. It was just amazing to go in and to see how they participated in worship. They got up every morning, had prayer time and devotion before they went to school. And then the team that I went with, as I said, we put a roof on, a big metal roof. It was very high. I'm not a heights person, but I climbed up there because I love to build. But I'd love to build on the ground, not at height. But it was just an amazing experience. And again, with the local missions or the church missions here that we have set aside, sponsorships were given to myself. They helped me with some of the cost of my trip. And then go ahead, Laura, to the next slide. And then we sent some to Korea. And you can tell that's an old picture because that's Andrew in the back. The tall one in the back. That's how young he was when he went. And Nick's beside him. But we sent a team, I think, of 4 from this local congregation to Korea. And that was all come from the local missions fund that we were able to help sponsor them to go. Go ahead, Laura. So state missions. What about state missions? We send money every month to state to help with different things. Go ahead. The camping ministry is one of them. I did go ahead and put the camping dates. Oh, we went too far. The camping dates on there. Camping ministry. I took a team. It took us about 18 months. We went down and renovated a lodge that had 6 bathrooms and 6 bedrooms and a big open area, and then 2 smaller cabins that were we renovated. I took a team of young people, taught them how to do tile, cut boards, build stuff. We laid hardwood floors. We did epoxy. We put in new vanities and toilets. So we totally renovated that whole big lodge. It was, I think, like I said, it took us about 18 months to do that. But it was an amazing time with those young people to minister to them, to teach them, and just to show them what it is to be a servant and to help with their own campground that they get to go and enjoy. And then the next part of the state missions is the emergency relief partnership. Like when Hurricane Harvey came through and some of our churches were flooded, we were able to give some of that from the state to help to do that. So our next, all right, that's okay. So global missions. So the book of Deuteronomy is an encouraging record of God's faithfulness, containing historical testimonies of Moses. And God reminds his people of his presence and his provision throughout that 40 years of wandering in preparation for the day to move forward. And as they stand at the edge of their destiny, God takes them on a journey of remembrance. God says, remember. The word remember is noted 14 times in Deuteronomy, and God says remember as one key verse of testimony comes from chapter 6, verse 23. It says he brought us out from there to bring us in and bring us to the land that he promised. So it reminds us of God's plan, and it reminds us of his promise. It reminds us that he wants to accomplish his purpose through our lives, and it's encouraging to remember God's faithfulness. In our 12th annual assembly, so we used to have an annual assembly, now it's every 2 years, but in our 12th in 1916, a landmark decision was made to direct the aspirations toward global ministries. The Church of God of Prophecy set aside and designated the second Sunday to be a mission offering. In the assembly 107 years ago, we agreed to a united effort for the awareness of mission ministries to prioritize a plan for the world missions and to provide support, connections to those we send and serve globally. During that season, foreign missions included the nations of Bahamas, Argentina, Cuba, and the Philippines. And we had an orphanage work in Egypt. And just 2 years later, in 2 years earlier, in 1914, we sent 2 missionaries, Roy and Jenny Russian, to travel to China to begin a work. And I would say, I believe we have taken some time, and of course they were in China, but I believe we have 5 churches there now. So this comes as a result of our commitment to the global mission vision and our directive toward mission giving. When you achieve unique milestones, an opportunity is provided to look back for a moment and celebrate. We remember God's faithfulness as we celebrate 107 years of Second Sunday mission offerings, the support and excitement and investment in the global harvest. However, remembering God's faithfulness from the past also leads us toward his direction for our present and towards our future. The Israelites stood at the edge of their promise, but in order to obtain the faithfulness of God's promise, they had to move forward and they had to respond to the call. There are many opportunities for new church plant and unique ministries throughout the 136 nations. So we started out in 5 in 1916. We're in over 136 nations at this point. We look with anticipation to forward movement, and we testify that God has indeed brought us out to bring us in and to give us the land that he promised. So next month is March, so start preparing for our March mission drive. I encourage us all to a united effort in the support and the establishing and developing forward movement within our global network. So Oh, yay, One Child Fund, good. One Child Fund is one thing that we do. It supports our orphanages. The One Child Fund works among needy and orphan children, continues to be united in global efforts of ministry, and we celebrate 3 cooperative ministry efforts. So there are some other ministries that have come in that are helping us in different places, and one of those is a Germany-based. It's called Global Aid Network, and they call themselves GAIN. They've helped in reconstruction. They were actually there in the orphanage in Haiti and helped with the reconstruction after the earthquake of 2010. And there are others that help with buildings in Rwanda. The Rwanda government has come alongside our campus and repurposed portions of for a construction site. And then the news of Uganda concerning a charitable organization that has come in to help complete children's homes, a dormitory, a school, and a guest house. So our greatest resource, of course, is the global efforts of the believers of the Church of God of Prophecy. They are the people who dreamed of the ministry and who would provide a home for orphans and needy children. Our people have loved these children, and without their love might have never experienced the full expression of God's love. I know when I was in Haiti, we had some young men to help us carry lumber and metal, sheet metal and things like that. And as I began talking with them, they were raised in the orphanage, and they come back and help any way they can to help keep the orphanage running. And they're young, probably in their early 20s. But you get to see the love of the Lord on them and the servant heart that they had. Harvest Partner Ministries. Okay, so we are harvest partners with Ecuador. And so our concentration when we send funds is for Ecuador. That assists with house churches in areas, terror-stricken areas where fellow Christians are persecuted, joins forces with God's people, showing His love in multiple ways, and then uniting in partnership all around the world with one purpose, to reach the lost and to build His church. And then the Helping Hands Ministries. Yes. This is, it's a giving channel for individuals who are passionate about meeting needs through global mission efforts. And funds assist with everything from purchasing vehicles to national leaders to take the gospel to the nations, buildings, clean water, education. And some of those vehicles, I know it said vehicles, some of those are a bicycle. A lot of them call and ask, I just need a bicycle. I just need to get from point A to point B. So I thought that was interesting that, you know, you'd think a motor scooter or something, but they just so that they don't have to walk. And then again, the other ministries, go ahead, Laura, with the clean water, food, education, transportation. Next. So one thing at the General Assembly, or Annual Assembly, International Assembly, they've changed the name, is we have a Parade of Nations, and it is amazing. I looked all over the internet last night so I could find a clip, so you would be able to see the Parade of Nations at our International Assembly. We have flags representing all 135 nations, and they march in with our church flag. And then in the end, they will recognize the new nations that we've added over the last 2 years, and it gives you chills. It is amazing. The Bahama Brass Band plays, and they usually play something like When the Saints Go Marching In, or some real peppy, upbeat music, and it just gives you, there's nothing like it. I wish I could have found a clip. This was the closest I could find, but you can see all those flags lined up on the platform where every nation is represented, that we have a church. Go ahead, sis. So the Church of God of Prophecy is a vibrant, worldwide body of believers united in worship, working hand in hand to share God's love and the message of hope to the brokenhearted. If you would like to, if you have a Facebook account, go ahead, Laura. There is a Global Missions Ministry page that you can go into and follow. And I went through it a little bit last night. I hadn't caught up for a while. And there are some really neat things going on around the world. It's amazing. 90% of our membership is in other countries.
Wow.
So, and I want to say that, we were talking about in our workplace and in our schools and mission field and how we can minister. If someone had not ministered to my father in his workplace, I wouldn't be here today. So my mom was raised in the Church of God, and my father was raised Baptist, and they, after they got married, moved to Cincinnati and were not attending church. And a pastor was working at Ford with my dad, and he invited him to church, he and another young man, and they started attending, and both of those went off to be pastors within 3 or 4 years after that. So what you say and what you do, and inviting people, you might have to invite them a lot, but eventually, hopefully they'll come, and they'll watch you, and they'll see your life, and you are ministering in the mission field every day. At Walmart, Target, no matter where you go, you're ministering and you're in a mission field.
Well, I made the right choice, right? Asking Sister Dawn to come forward and help us. And if anything else, I think out of this particular service, you learned a lot more about the mission field, why we have mission service, and different things like that. Because all these things that you have in the church, just like youth service, children's church, your worship team, all of these devices are set in order to help grow the church. All right? And as Sister Dawn had mentioned about the Lord uses different people in different ways, and how the Lord used Moses to lead the children out of Egypt and out of bondage. And then also he used Noah to build the ark. And that this has been on my mind a lot lately about the ark. And in closing, this is what I wanted to sort of close with, is that thinking about Noah and the ark, whenever he was building that ark, it took him 40 years. And people thought he was crazy. Has it not? Don't people think you crazy now, thinking about, okay, the Lord's coming back, there's going to be a rapture, that means taking the people away, and this, that, and the other. And the world is waxing colder and colder. Whether there were people that used to believe or not believe, now they're not believing in anything. Okay, whether it's the rapture or not, they just don't believe in anything. The way it goes is that, whatever makes you feel good, let's do it, And that's their mindset. But in the days of Noah, and when it got time for the ark, and then it began to flood and everything, the animals began to come in by themselves. Noah did not go out there and get them. So there is going to be a time, and whenever you see a new person coming in, welcome that person in, because you never know if the Lord has put it on their heart that, this is where they need to be. Okay? And just like as Dawn was saying about her father and someone inviting him to church, and just like some of you may have found the church on your own by just seeing us. Of course, now you can't see us. Anyway, but whenever I was growing up, I always knew there was going to be something that I would do, because I grew up in a divided family, so it wasn't there that I got the blessings. It was from my aunt that was always praying. Like they say, there's always someone praying for you. And as we were growing up, or as I grew up, I met a young boy, and he invited me to church. And whenever some of my friends heard about the church I wanted to go to, they talked about, oh, you don't want to go to that Holy Roller church. And I thought, oh well. Anyway, but it was not necessarily that I was going to the church service. It was an activity they had. Okay, that's how I got there. And but I found the love of Jesus when I went there, and everybody loved me, and I'm still here today. But anyway, back to Noah. Whenever the Lord got the animals to get on the ark, there was a time also that he shut the door. The Lord shut the door. Noah did not shut the door. Noah knew when to go inside because the Lord told him. You say, okay, did the Lord talk to you out loud? No. Sometimes in your mind, those little voices that you hear, that's God talking to you. Or sometimes what I'll say is, oh, that's my angel that just told me not to do that or not to go that direction or this, that, or the other, because he tells us that there's an angel with us all the time, But anyway, and that is the way that the time is happening now. We don't know the hour, but we sure see that things are happening. And you know what? If we didn't see a way out, such as the rapture, what a miserable person that we would be, knowing all these things are going to be happening. I mean, you see yourself right now. You can go to the grocery store and buy things, but it's going to get limited. I was at the store just this past week, and some lady bought 3 dozen eggs, and they told her to put one of the dozen back, but it was only limited to 2 dozen. So it's not going to matter how much money you have or what status you are. We're going to be limited to what we have, and it's just the way the world is going. So thank heavens that we as Christians know that there is an escape for us, that the rapture is coming, but we have to get our hearts right, because once the rapture hits, that's sort of like the door shutting. There's not going to be a second rapture for you. And so this is why, this morning, if anybody has anything that they'd like to, the altars are open, and if Brother Abel will come to the piano, and if you have something that you would like to pray about, we'll pray with you. And if there's anybody that has a need and you want to come to the front, and we'll pray for you as well. If you're needing prayer, please remember Brother Ray this week. Because on Monday, he's supposed to have surgery on one of the leg that he lost the toes on, and they're going to be amputating his leg again. And a lot of times when we see diabetics, once this starts, it just keeps going, But he has really good spirits. Brother Brooks has been talking to him and everything, but still, when it comes right down to it, we need to really lift him up in prayer. And but is there anybody else that has any prayer requests that you'd like to make known that we can pray over? Oh, yeah, okay, Candace, yes, because whatever you're going through, it definitely affects your mate. It really does. And she has to be strong as well, so pray for her strength. And,
Sister Brooks, a place where I work at in New Braunfels, I got promoted pretty quickly after being there for about 2 months. And I've already encountered what I feel like God's doing something over there, and I think I'm there for a reason, and I want to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and also use wisdom in those situations. But I came across an opportunity to witness to someone who was literally hurting, and I did. And so I'm going to be inviting some people. I don't know if I can, but I really feel led to invite certain people to church. I don't believe in those coincidences.
right,
And so I just really need some guidance.
right. Pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom. All right, anybody else? No. And as I said, the altars are open, or if anybody needs prayer, does anybody need prayer for their body? Or like Corey, if you want us to pray with you, you can come up and we'll have prayer for you. Anybody else that would like to?
I want to testify.